the Dawgs Podcast with your hosts, Blake Reneker, Justin Charles, John Nye, and Josh All.
What's up, Browns fans? Welcome to another episode of the Dawgs Podcast, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. If you guys want to get your intro, your thoughts, voicemails, anything like that on the show, send them to us at dawgspodcast.com. Tap leave voicemail in the drop-down menu and send us your thoughts. We really want to hear from you guys, especially considering the off-season is ramping up. The free agent signings, the things that are happening right now, things are moving quickly, moving into the draft. There's going to be all kinds of prospect talk, which we're going to dive into today. There's one wide receiver prospect that I want to highlight today, get your thoughts on. So please participate with the show. Head to thedawgspodcast.com, leave us a voicemail. All right, as I just mentioned, there is a wide receiver prospect that I would like to highlight for the Browns. And I think the guy that we're going to talk about today, real quick here, is a reasonable, realistic fit for the Browns, considering what Andrew Berry historically has done via the draft and the way he approaches the wide receiver position. So with that being said, I just want to remind everybody, follow us on our socials, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Make sure you like this video, please, right now. As you're watching this, just like the video. And if you haven't already subscribed, do that too. Subscribe to the channel. It's free, doesn't cost you anything, helps us, and make sure that you hit the notification bell so you never miss one of these new episodes, one of these new updates that are coming out about the Cleveland Browns. Another update before I dive into this prospect is Mecole Hardman, we found out just moments ago, signed a, let's see, what is this? A one-year deal, which is surprising. Didn't think that would happen. One-year deal, $6.5 million with the New York Jets. So there's a free agent wide receiver off the Browns radar. Browns fans, I know a lot of you were high on Mecole Hardman. I didn't disagree that he would be able to come in and be that Anthony Schwartz replacement, that he could execute the role that Schwartz was supposed to be executing, that we know clearly at this point he's not able to do. But you know, Mecole Hardman, now that contract is not what I thought he was going to go for. I thought that it would be at least a 2, but I was kind of thinking probably a 3-year deal and closer to the $10 million a year mark, maybe in that 9.5 range, going up to 10. But, you know, 6.5, it's not a bad deal for the Jets, but I think you're seeing that Andrew Berry did not value the replace Anthony Schwartz role for $6.5 million. Whether or not that the Browns gave him an offer or not, we don't know, but maybe that information will surface and we can talk about it when it does. Let's see here. Just to touch on a couple things. Blake's sick this week. Justin's kids are sick, so we decided not to do an in-studio podcast. We are going to do a virtual podcast with the group tomorrow night, and we're going to touch on a bunch of things. Anthony Walker just re-signed with the Browns for a one-year deal, so we're getting the linebacking core looking a little better. So big signing for the Browns, big re-signing for the Browns. So let's dive into this wide receiver prospect in the NFL draft. I want to talk about what we have seen with Andrew Berry historically is not investing high draft capital in the wide receiver position. Now, does not mean that at pick 42, the Browns don't go wide receiver. I feel like they should. I know most of you feel like they should. And that's kind of the consensus among fans. But, you know, whenever we're doing these types of conversations about the Browns, it is important to try to separate your fandom from the reality of what an NFL GM's mindset is going to be. And we have seen that Andrew Berry does not place high draft capital into the wide receiver position. At least he hasn't yet. A couple years ago, first round, we were sitting there, it was like, pick 27, I think. We were banging the table for Rashad Bateman. Draft Rashad Bateman. They went Greg Newsome. Okay, Newsome turned out to be a fine player. He's been really good for the Browns. We really like him. Bateman goes to the Ravens. Excuse me. And, you know, his career hasn't really played out the way that we obviously thought it could with the Browns. But it's yet to be seen. It's only been 2 years, injury riddled. You know, his quarterback situation has been in flux. Whatever. Okay. Last year, We're sitting there in, I believe it was the second round, kind of like we are going to be here next month. And George Pickens is on the board. And we were banging the table last year. If George Pickens is available, take him, take George Pickens. What does Andrew Berry do? Trades back into the third, Martin Emerson. Okay, great. Martin Emerson turned out to be a very good player. And I'm glad we have him on the team. And we picked up some additional draft capital in the process, but we could have had George Pickens, who showed last year with the Steelers. And that's 2 wide receivers that we wanted on this show that have gone to division rivals. Now, I'm tired of doing that. I really am. It's getting old. The trade back, the passing on guys that could really help us. But I don't want to talk about pick 42 today. We've got Brian Bosarge from Draft Countdown coming on next week to talk about all that kind of stuff. What I want to talk about today is a player that Andrew Berry could target late in the draft, like a Donovan Peoples-Jones, like a Michael Woods. You know, we saw the third round picks go to Anthony Schwartz and David Bell. So that's why I'm kind of staying away from the pick 42 talk at this moment. I'd rather have a larger discussion around players that could be available at that pick at the wide receiver position. But today I want to talk about a guy that the Browns could target late in the draft, probably in the 6th round, sort of very similar to Donovan Peoples-Jones. We will see that in the numbers. Puka Nacua, wide receiver out of BYU, okay? It's a name that I don't know how many of you are familiar with, and if you are probably even more familiar with his name than I am. So please, comment section, drop your thoughts, your feedback. Let me know what you think about Puka Nacua, wide receiver from BYU, 6'2", 205. He was a 4-star recruit in the 2019 high school class. He was a top 150 prospect across the nation. So in 2021, Puka Nacua he played 12 games, 43 receptions, 805 yards, 6 touchdowns. Pretty decent, pretty solid numbers. 2022, he played 3 fewer games, had 48 receptions, 625 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Almost matched the production from the year before in 3 fewer games. Plus, in 2022, he actually had he had 25 carries for an additional 209 yards and 5 more touchdowns. So the guy is a freak athlete. He really is. You get the ball in his hands, he makes something happen. His 2021 PFF grade was 84.2. In 2022, it bumped up to an 89.8. In 2022, his receiving grade was a 90.1, and he put up 3.53 yards per route run. That 3.53 yards per route run, if you watched a previous episode that we did, that helps measure the efficiency of a wide receiver or a pass catcher in general. 3.53 yards per route run is among the highest in this NFL draft class. These numbers, these PFF grades that I just read off to you, the 84.2 in 21, the 89.8 in 22, the 90.1 receiving grade, the 3.53 yards per route run, those numbers are all higher than top-ranked wide receiver Quentin Johnston. It's crazy. This guy is really flying under the radar, and it's because his measurables, his athletic measurables, the numbers he put up, playing with BYU, he's not a top-of-the-class talent as far as that stuff is concerned. But what he can bring to a team on the field is, I really do think, Donovan Peoples-Jones-esque. So this is the type of guy that I feel like will get drafted later, in the later rounds of the draft. He'll be primarily brought in as a special team guy and to help contribute in that regard as a depth piece at the wide receiver position. But I wouldn't be shocked if he started moving his way up whatever depth chart he lands on. And if it's with the Browns, he doesn't have that far to go, honestly.
This episode is brought to you by Omaha Steaks. Spring is in the air, and that can only mean one thing: spring grilling. The steak experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to spring into something delicious with their semi-annual sale. With 50% off site-wide, grab all your favorites like perfectly aged, tender steaks, ocean fresh seafood, juicy burgers, incredible air-chilled chicken, and decadent desserts. Plus, when you go to omahasteaks.com and use promo code DAWGS, DAWGS at checkout, you'll get an extra $30 off your order. It's the perfect way to get fired up and spring into something special. Don't wait. Go to omahasteaks.com, use code DAWGS at checkout. Take advantage of this deal right now. Omaha Steaks is ready to ship your order right away, and you're going to want to hurry because 50% off site-wide is only happening for a limited time. So don't miss your chance to save big right now. Visit omahasteaks.com, use code DAWGS, DAWGS at checkout. Get that additional $30 off when you shop their semi-annual sale today. Minimum order may be required. This episode is brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. The biggest tournament in college basketball is underway, and the action is just getting started on DraftKings Sportsbook, one of America's top-rated sportsbook apps. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 on any pregame moneyline bet and score $150 in bonus bets if your team wins. Plus, combine multiple bets for a shot at an even bigger payout. DraftKings will be featuring parlays and odds boosts all tournament long, so be sure to check the DraftKings Sportsbook app every day to see what they have in store. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. Sign up with code TPPN. Right now, new customers can bet $5 on any pregame moneyline bet and get $150 in bonus bets if your team wins. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code TPPN. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details.
He has been touted for his football competitiveness and his physicality. They say that this kid just loves contact. He loves physicality. He is a beast with the ball in his hands, and he's not afraid to run guys over and initiate contact, which I think is the opposite of what you ever see with Anthony Schwartz. But it's, like I've been saying, very similar to Donovan Peoples-Jones. So when I bring up the NFL draft, the official scouting reports for these guys from NFL.com, Donovan Peoples-Jones came out of college 6'2", 212, pretty much the same size as Puka Nacua. His prospect grade was a 5.94. Puka is a 5.8. Next Gen Stats has Donovan Peoples-Jones graded at a 71, Puka at a 73. Puka's production score 72, athleticism score 75, total score 73, where Donovan Peoples-Jones was a production score of 55. His athleticism score was second in overall in the entire class at 87. Donovan Peoples-Jones tested real well, and his total score was a 71. Puka doesn't have his, I don't believe he participated in the combine. He doesn't have those numbers. But really what the knocks against him, he does not have the burst, the big acceleration to separate from the NFL defenders. They say he's going to struggle to elude the press coverage. He is more of an upright route runner, makes it easy to kind of move around out there, lets the DBs kind of shift him where they want him to go, put him off his routes, things like that. He doesn't have the long speed to keep corners from, coming up and kind of squatting where they're at. And they said occasional issues with focus on downfield targets. I saw he only had 3 drops in 2022, so I'm not really sure about all of that. But looking at some of the weaknesses of Donovan Peoples-Jones when he came out, release, lacks twitch and suddenness. Press jams, find him all game long. Play speed is very gradual, non-threatening. These are things that we have seen Donovan Peoples-Jones overcome, and he's developed into one hell of a receiver for the Browns. They said that he'll have NFL quarterbacks parked in his pocket, unable to shake tight man to open extended windows, slowed by redirection for shallow zone defenders. These are the same things, just said in different ways about Puka Nacua. And one thing that Puka Nacua is really praised for is his football IQ, is that the guy understands, I shouldn't even say that guy, the kid understands how to play the game of football. And I say kid because he's 22 years old coming into the NFL. I believe Donovan Peoples-Jones was 21 when he came into the NFL. The strengths, though, his routes offer leverage and crisp angles on the move. Nice job of gaining vertical stack on cornerbacks. He has a basketball background, and that they say that's on display when he makes contested catches. So he's very good in those kinds of situations. Late catch space with physicality and hand fighting. He may not have the long speed to beat guys deep all the time, but if you throw it up, this is the perfect combination for this type of receiver. You throw it up, he's coming down with the ball. He can go up and get it, and he's physical enough to bully these guys around and make sure he's the one who comes down with it. And he's 6'2", 205. He's a bigger bodied receiver. Battered defenses as jet sweep option. That is shown in the 25 carries, 209 yards, and 5 touchdowns. So he can operate in that role as well for the Browns. Tough and slippery with the ball in his hands. So while he may not have all the quickness, the route running, the speed that some of these higher ranked NFL prospects do in this class, I think Puka Nacua is flying under the radar and is the exact kind of prospect that Andrew Berry would target later in the draft. And I could even see, depending on how pro days and all the things leading up to the draft go here in the next few weeks, if Berry feels like Nacua is going to slip, or not so much slip, but move up from that maybe late 5th, 6th round area, you could see Andrew Berry take a 5th round pick and use it on a guy like Puka Nacua. Again, I like this kid. I like what I've read about him. I like what I've seen. He's football focused. By all accounts, he's great character. He's a great football IQ. He studies, he works hard, and he's physical. And that's what we need on the Browns offense. I think that you see that with Donovan Peoples-Jones. I think you see the physicality. I think you see his determination to be great, win out over the weaknesses that he was knocked for coming out of college. And I think you will see the same thing with Puka Nacua. So I wouldn't be surprised if whoever drafts Puka Nacua, wide receiver out of BYU, I would not be surprised to see Puka Nacua be I don't want to say like a number 1 receiver for a team, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him be a solid 3 or a 2 for a team in 3 years, just like Donovan Peoples-Jones has become. So keep your eye on Puka Nacua. Look into him. If you know more about him than what I just talked about, let us know. Put it in the comments. Let's share the knowledge about this kid, because I really do think that he could be a good fit for the Browns. I think that he fits what our offense needs, what our offense wants to do, and I think he fits the type of profile that Andrew Berry goes after in the draft. So let me know what you guys think about Puka Nacua. Let me know what you think about McCole Hardman signing with the Jets. We'll talk about that on the next episode as well. Let me know some other draft prospects you want us to talk about. If there's people specifically that you want us to ask Brian Bosarge about next week, drop it in the comments. We will talk to him about as many wide receivers as we can, because we want to know them all. So really appreciate you guys tuning in to another episode of the show. Again, like the video, subscribe to the channel, notification bell, all that fun stuff. And if you want more Browns content, we do an extra episode at jointhedawgs.com every week. Join our Patreon, become a Dog Bag member, help support the show. We really appreciate it. And it's just a community filled with Browns fans from all over the world. It's a lot of fun. We have great conversations. Diehard Browns fans. I mean, what gets better than that? So again, appreciate you guys tuning in. Until I talk to you next time, go Browns.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Dawgs Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Twitter at the Dawgs Podcast. Get your thoughts on the show at thedawgspodcast.com.